We've been working on this a while, and as we designed it, we knew we had certain things we had to start on right away, and one of them was this building. The old monorail had a floor that was actually 18 inches below where we're standing right now. In the old monorail, the trains were able to fit in this space and everything worked okay. When we looked at the profile of the track that's needed with the coasters on top of it, we found that we had to cut a trench through the middle of this building. So back in April, we started working on how do we cut the building in half and still hold it together. So underneath us, there's a lot of steel that allowed us to hold the building together to then come back and slice the building in half. Because of the ceiling heights below, we could not push the track very far down without it interfering with the restrooms and the gift shop. So we ended up building the floor that we're standing on up 18 inches. That consists of 15 inches of styrofoam and 3 inches of concrete. The building wouldn't hold 18 inches thick of solid concrete. You see trenches right off here, which we will have the mock gates from the manufacturer box. And where we're standing in this bay will house one train of 16 people. So the 8 gates can open up and 16 people get onto the ride. At the same time, the gates on the other side open up and 16 people depart the ride. In front of this wall behind us is where a second train could be. So we could actually have 2 trains in here, load and unload 32 people at one time. There's kind of a gap in the thin glass opening over here, and that's where the stairs go down to the gift shop. Also on the other side, elevated 4 feet above our 18 inches, is another elevated platform for our ride operators. So they'll be in there. You can kind of see the openings for the glass where they can see very clearly the entire operation of loading and unloading. When there are 2 trains ready and loaded, the first train will launch right from its spot. So there's some kicker motors to get it some momentum. It immediately enters the 24 magnets that accelerate it up to 38 miles an hour. Once it's cleared its block, the second train advances. It goes past that first spot and is now sitting in the magnets ready for its launch. Now there are 2 empty bays ready for the next trains to come in. We will have a total of 5 trains, and each seats 16, like we said earlier. They're similar to the Maverick at Cedar Point in their size and dimensions, but they will be very uniquely Cheetah Hunt in the architecture around the outside of it. We spent a lot of time in Europe actually carving in Europe the actual foam that became the molds for the nose piece and the sides along the side of it. So this will look very uniquely to our attraction.
Mark, how many riders per hour would that be, and how does it compare to the other coasters?
It'll compare very favorably to our other coasters. We're expecting between 1,200 and 1,400 riders per hour, and of course the trick will be the loading and unloading sequence. The blocks are set up so we can achieve up to 1,400. It'll be up to what goes on this floor in the station that decides how fast we actually get. Our other coasters are also in that same range of 12 to 1,400.
Can you talk about the restraints? Will they be the soft restraints like we're starting to see?
These restraints, we looked at fabric restraints and we decided not to go with that, but these are restraints unlike the Maverick or any other Intamin ride. They are a foam, but they are thinner and more flexible. So it's a harness that comes down over your head, which has the restraint and a built-in lap bar all in one piece as it comes down. So each one is actually a mirror image of the other one, so you can kind of get on, but it goes up over your head when it's fully back, fully reclined or back. So let's recap what the ride experience is going to be. Launch right here, a surprise perhaps. over element 1 into the trench 1. Up, accelerating to 60 miles an hour to a tower that's 102 feet tall. At the top of the tower, there's a lazy figure 8, so our guests will be able to get a panoramic vision of our park developed from a height of 102 feet. Don't take your eye off the ball very long, because you're going to come to a drop and you're going to fall off the top of that tower into a trench that's 20 feet deep that goes underneath the train tracks. So people on our steam locomotive train will be able to go over Trench 2 and see this coaster fall off the tower, disappear under their wheels, and ascend on the other side. We have 13 more pieces of track to fill in, and that's what we're working on right now to complete the bottom of Trench 2. As the coaster comes out of Trench 2, this is a surprise that we'll reveal to you. It's going to go over the top of the Skyride towers. So our guests that are on our cable cars will be going back and forth, and they will go underneath Cheetah Hunt as it goes over the top. As it clears the top, it then drops into what we call Trench 3. That's the trench that we built back in April with our bypass walkway over the top. So all our guests going from Nairobi to edge of Africa will be able to look to the south, see this coaster drop off the tower, disappear, go over the Skyride, and then disappear underneath their feet. So again, very interactive spots throughout the park for our guests to enjoy Cheetah Hunt and wonder, where do you get on this thing at? Where do I follow it to get onto the loading station? Well, you see the clock tower by the Crown Colony? Make your way there and you'll find the entrance. As it comes out from Trench 3, this is our one inversion where we will have a heartline roll as it goes over the top of the land train. So again, people on the land train can look up and see a heartline roll. Later on, after the Nairobi train station, they can see it disappear under your feet. As it goes over the land train and does a heartline roll, it now enters the old Rhino Rally water portion, the canyon. And there is a block brake that's there, so we're able to stop the train on the block brake. Otherwise, we will continue to roll forward and have a steeply banked right-hand turn over the old reservoir right into the belly of Rhino Rally Canyon. The water will continue to be raging down the river as it goes counterclockwise around that island, 18 inches deep. The coaster will dip down almost to the water and go upstream clockwise as it meanders and serpentines through the canyon, through the existing rock work, all the way around to where the old pontoon bridge used to be. When the pontoon bridge broke away with the Land Rovers on top and floating down the river. Right there, it'll go right through that space where the pontoons came, and bam, launch 3 will going to get you. You're going to be accelerated back up to 50 miles an hour through launch 3, go through a 60-foot tall camelback so you feel weightless for several seconds, drop down to the ground, and then bank steeply over that same bridge that the people were standing on earlier at Trench 3 where the coaster went under it. But now you will be steeply banked over your head. So again, we have these very iconic columns there with the banners in between the columns for this over and under part of the ride. You leave this part, dip into Trench 4, disappear from sight, finally climb out of Trench 4, go over the train ride, under the Skyride, and you return back home right behind me. So when people get off and they tell their moms or their grandmothers or they say, where'd you go? They'll say, I don't know. I don't know where I was. I know I started in the Crossroads Plaza and I was launched, but I don't know where I went. At one point I was in a canyon and there was all this water, but I don't know when they built that or where I was at. Now people that are familiar with our park will figure it out. Otherwise they won't know where they're at. This is a 7-acre site, so it's very linear, very long, and there are surprises about every piece of the way. So just when you think you've seen it all, you're going to turn around a corner and be launched back again.
Mark, I hear your excitement when you're telling the story about what this ride's going to do. Tell me, what is it like designing this stuff?
It's the best job in the world. If you can spend your time looking into the future and your job is judged on screams or laughs or applause, there's nothing better than that. So we have the best jobs at Busch Gardens, and the people that deal with the animals, the same thing. Their passion for the animals, that they get to come to work every day and see some of the most magnificent species on earth. This is the best job.
How long does the roller coaster ride last, possibly?
We haven't timed one, but we're thinking it'll be about 2 minutes.
Like a lot longer.
I keep watching them put in track and put in track. I walk the site about 5 times every day. I just wearing out shoes, and I'm thinking, this has got to be longer than 4,400 feet. It's just got to be. It just goes on forever. Now, unlike so many of our other coasters, where you can stand in a central part of the plaza and you can kind of see, okay, there's the loading station, there it goes up the lift, there it drops, here's an inversion, and you can kind of stand at a few spots and watch the whole thing. There is no way you can do that from any point here. During the design, we spent many mornings with weather balloons, and we left these weather balloons out on tethers throughout the park. And we saw, where is this 102-foot tower going to be? So we'd anchor the weather balloon. We would go to Miami Reserve and say, can we see these weather balloons from our animal habitats? We'd go to the Crown Colony, we'd go to Edge of Africa, we'd go to Timbuktu, we'd go to Egypt, we'd go to all these places. In some places we wanted to see things, and other places we wanted to disguise it. Hence, we have 5 trenches throughout the whole ride. We've done a pretty good job as you've walked around the park to look into Maasai village huts of Edge of Africa. You can't really see the coaster behind you. Our color palette was based on that. So 5 years ago, I did not envision a signature tower, but I did envision the close to the ground, the speed of it, the nature of it, and that. The tower, we probably had 50 iterations of this design, and that was probably an iteration 30. So these things are an evolution of improvement, and every iteration was better than the first one. If we had built the first design, this would not be as exciting.
What kind of role has Intamin played in developing this ride with you?
What kind of role?
Intamin. What have they done in developing this with you?
Well, Intamin is our engineers and our manufacturer of the ride. So the final exact nature of the attitude of every one of the tracks, they're doing that. The layout and pretty much how we wanted this to work was pretty much dictated from our end of it. And they would then chime in to make sure that everything was working all right. But we pretty much dictated from the beginning how we wanted this to go. But they were great partners with us, and did a fantastic job in their final tweaking of it and their manufacturing of the ride.
Can you talk about the fact that they had to prefab and kind of erect the tower over in Switzerland, I think it was?
The tower was so unique that they were a little nervous about it. So they manufactured the columns in Hungary and the track in Czechoslovakia. So the tower was actually built in a little village in Hungary and was erected 102 feet tall in the middle of nowhere. And I'm sure the villagers were looking at it and going, what's that? You know, is that some kind of radio tower, or, you know, or satellite's going to go on it? What is it? But it was done, and it was done in 5 days. So they could see that everything fit properly. They didn't want to send it to us, and that's how a problem in the United States. So it was actually erected in Hungary. So we're very proud of the work they did too. It's a good collaboration between the park, our architects, and our ride manufacturers.
Is this the first Intamin? The first one for this
Well,
park, right?
we opened the Congo River Rapids, which was an Intamin ride, in 1982. It was only the second Congo River Rapids ride outside of Operaland. Then, when we refurbished the monorail to make them electrified in 1989, Intamin was again our partner on that. Intamin has since gone on to work with us in our other parks, but they have not come back and worked with us until now in this park.
About the low to the ground coaster concept and kind of, was Intamin one of the first ones you looked at?
Yes, we have been thinking about this for some time now. When Cheetah went in 2005, it took up a lot of space. The lift's pretty tall. So as we thought about how we would shoehorn in our next ride, we wondered what we could use, what technology we could use, how we could maybe avoid such a tall lift. And so we've been thinking about this for some time. And of course, Maverick at Cedar Point was one of our coasters that we benchmarked to ride it, to understand it, to visit with their engineers and parks to make sure that what we were getting is something that we could live with and maintain. And we're very happy so far.
What's the next, and what will you do with the first train when you get it?
We will have several benchmarks. Our ride commissioning will begin on March the 1st. So we have to put in the last 13 pieces and then begin the ride commissioning. Most of my coasters that I built in the past actually have just one ride control booth. We actually have 3 ride control booths. We have one in this building, we have one in the Skyride, and we built a whole other building back at the Rhino Rally Island just to take care of that launch. So the trains will come in next week. The first order of business, besides getting the last 13 pieces in, is we actually uncouple the nose in the first train, and we actually, per Intamin's request, we drag it around the entire track. So we have a silhouette of the ride clearance envelope, but they insist instead that the first coach and the nose piece be drug around the track. So it'll probably take us 3 days just to do that. The ride commissioning that begins on March 1st will be mainly all electronics and all sensors. We have 283 sensors on this track. We have 138 magnets. We have 109 kicker motors. So all of those will be checked out essentially one at a time to make sure that they're operating properly, that everything is reading the proper measurements, and that'll be the first effort starting March 1st.
What would you say personally, knowing what this ride is going to entail, what are you most excited for the guests to experience, and what do you see as the most exciting element of the ride?
I think if you could have one word, it's going to be surprise. They're not going to know what's happening first, second, or next. So as our guests ride this and experience it for the very first time, there will be a surprise around every corner. From 5 trenches to going over the Skyride to 3 separate launches. I think it's going to be extremely graceful as it goes down through the old Rhino Rally Canyon, and every piece of it's going to be a new surprise, just ready to unfold for our guests.
Excellent. And then what would you say, because it sounds like it's going to appeal to the families and also to the hardcore coaster enthusiasts, so what would you say is going to be a favorite among the people that are really hardcore and into the airtime, the G's, and the basic coaster mechanics and thrills?
Anybody that is a thrill ride enthusiast is going to get on this ride, ride it for 2 minutes, get off of it and go, wow. They're going to say, I was shoved back into my seat. I felt that acceleration, the grace and speed, and how we contoured it to the ground. All of those things are going to accentuate the speed that they feel, and they're going to get off of it and go, wow, I'll do that again. And it's going to be unfold to them in such a way that, again, they're going to say, I didn't know what was coming next. Sometimes I can anticipate what's going to come. I could not anticipate what Cheetah Hunt was going to come.
And do you see it then as a repeat ride for people that really enjoy coasters so that they'll see little nuances kind of like every time?
Certainly. I'm sure that I'm going to have kids come up to me and say, Sister Rose, I rode Cheetah Hunt 10 times Saturday. And I expect that. And they'll want to ride it 10 times on Saturday. And they'll want to go tell their friends that I rode Cheetah Hunt 10 times Saturday.
Great,
so
thank you.
That's what we're expecting.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.